So as promised, let's get more on one of our top stories. Carrie Gracie is stepping down from her role as BBC China editor because of what she called an indefensible pay gap between men and women. Well, Ripa Rashid is an expert in workplace diversity and talent management. She's the co-president of the Centre for Talent Innovation in New York, and she joins us live on the programme. Thank you so much for being with us. I know this story has a lot of resonance with your own experience. Tell me more about that.
Absolutely, Matthew. This was something I experienced at various points in my career. And early on in my career, I don't think I had the context or strength to be able to bring it face on. But I was working in Asia a couple of years ago, and I discovered within the first 6 months of working there that a male colleague with exactly the same title, who happened to be a Caucasian male, was making 35% more salary than I was. I had one foot out the door, but that pay equity, inequity, the gender penalty I was paying was really the final straw for me. There were already all kinds of other indicators in the workplace about it being an environment that was hostile towards women, but that was the nail in the coffin, if you will.
You said in that answer that you had already one foot out of the door when you found out about 6 months into this job, but did you confront your employer?
I actually didn't, because, it wasn't just a matter of the pay equity. There were clearly other things that were going on in that environment that were not friendly to women. So, the point here being that this incident with Carrie Grace is phenomenal right now, with this moment in history where three separate forces are coming together. One, we have a lot more data and information out there. We have Glass Hammer, we have Vault, where you can actually find out about the culture of an organization. You can find out about salaries, right? So you go in more informed. Secondly, CEOs are taking on the mantle of really driving change in their cultures. So, you think of Salesforce and Mark Benioff. You think of all the companies that have signed on to pay equity compacts. And thirdly, the influence of the Me Too type movement, the, Time's Up. So I think, all of these together point to the fact that it's not just about pay equity, it's a broader set of cultural issues that are at play, and pay equity is the tip of the iceberg, if you will.
This is going on in so many different workplaces, but one of the fundamental problems is that in many of those places there is secrecy surrounding all of these facts and figures to enable someone to actually know in the first place. And you alluded to exactly that, which happened to you.
Absolutely. There are, I think, some experiments going on right now, particularly in Silicon Valley and the startup environment, which is fertile for creating new cultures, where some organizations have committed to radical transparency. We'll see where these experiments go, but that is definitely a move in the right direction. The absence of transparency around salary figures has been an issue. We only know the salaries of Fortune 500 CEOs based on the lists, but within organizations, it's often a surprise. We had at our annual event for my organization a couple of years ago, Mika Brzezinski speak about how she found out that she was making 14 times less than, Chuck Scarborough. I mean, how does that happen in this day and age? Why are we as women paying this gender penalty? And I think it's, about time that we stop just mapping the gap. Yep. We've been talking about mapping the gap, but we need to close that gap.
Just a quick twin final thought, because that phrase equal work we were hearing there in our package, it does give employers the scope perhaps to differentiate in terms of salary terms between people. And also the other point is that, Carrie walked away from this China job, you walked away from your job, but a lot of people facing these difficulties cannot afford to do that. And I don't mean afford it financially, I mean simply it is the job that they have and need to keep.
That's a very valid point. And frankly, I will tell you, when I left that job, I did not have another job. It was so unpalatable and unacceptable to me. I think, what Carrie has done in a much more high-profile way is a brave thing to do. The reality is organizations are finally heeding the value that women bring to the workplace, not just because they're different, but because we bring differentiated skill sets, because innovation comes from having diverse teams, diverse thinkers, whether it be gender diversity, ethnic diversity. So there are organizations out there. I really, I hate to sound like a Pollyanna, but I do think that there are organizations out there increasingly who have as their value proposition, we will treat you well. And they're being increasingly documented.
Well, we have to leave it there. Ripa Rashid, thank you very much for being here on the programme and taking us through those various issues.